In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Laura Watts, and she's heading over as a marketing manager over at Verto Cloud. And at Verto Cloud, they're basically all about work collaboration and project management. It's a work management solution that basically, helps your team if you are running on Microsoft Teams specifically. So maybe let's jump into Verto today and give the stage to Laura. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Of course, yeah. So maybe give us a quick 360 overview. What is Verto Cloud all about in your own words?
Yeah, sure. So probably a bit of a timeline to explain this one. And you did an excellent job yourself. So TMI Systems launched Verto Cloud in 2008. It's a SaaS business based around improving collaboration and productivity in the workplace. Traditionally, we've provided project managers with solutions to track and manage and report on the way that they work and trying to help more of their data and information that they produce for their projects sort of be housed in one place, so it's much easier to access and to manage. We have gained success mainly with the public sector back in the day, partnering with loads of organisations within the health and local government sector and central government sector and so on. More recently, we've actually made a bit of a shift that has involved partnering with Microsoft. So with the sudden boost in popularity with Microsoft Teams encountered as a result of the pandemic, I mean, it was already very well used, but it became more like the glue that held company cultures together by sort of connecting colleagues with the work that they did when they just couldn't be together. And we really at that stage took advantage of what was then a relatively new integration method that had not been explored at that time. And by doing that, we became one of the first project management applications to completely embed our tools within Microsoft Teams, which is when Verto 365, the application was born. So we created this application, and rather than that it's simply providing a notifications in a Teams channel that maybe provided a link and took that person away from Teams into the Verto window, for example, like I said, we pretty much picked up our tools, picked up our software and put it into Teams. So now you can update any of your work, you can change any of your work, you can report on anything, you can analyze any of your data, you can collaborate and pretty much do anything that you need to do, but directly from within Teams without having to even go into Verto. So with the knowledge of Microsoft Teams' popularity on the rise, we also then became aware in recent years of people's need for better task management tools, which we believe to be a direct result of people working from home and just having this newfound autonomy to discover their own ways and methods of productivity rather than their organization dictating the processes that to them, in the way they work. So we knew we already had these sort of simple, more agile task management tools in our armory, but we just never marketed them as that. They'd all been a part of this bigger, more project management focused package. So what we've done since then is expanded recently, and actually this month we've launched Workspaces, which is our free version of the app, obviously in Teams, which is for absolutely everybody. So not just project managers, but the wider workforce. Workspaces basically are dedicated areas in Teams that allow you to group Kanban boards that relate to a particular project or set of related tasks. And they're free to use for anyone who wants to get the app from within Teams. And so that is where we are today.
Very good, very succinct, very clear, and very easy to understand, and makes a whole lot of sense. What you're describing. What I'm curious then is what team benefits the most. I mean, of course, being on Teams is helpful. But two, is there like a certain types of projects? Is there certain size of team, a certain amount of people that are active within the project management world within Teams that needs to be there? Like maybe tell us a bit about sort of an ideal setup and a great fitting customer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in one word, the answer to your question is no. It's such a versatile tool. Again, sort of giving it a bit of a timeline frame, traditionally project managers were those who benefited, but it could have been those who operated as sole project managers or within small teams, or those, who then, and those smaller teams, they might use sort of some of our tools, but it could go right through to large scale project management offices that require really quite a complex set of tools. So anything and anyone in between. And then, people that worked at in different styles of project management, project management purists, or those who prefer an agile way of working, and again, everything in between. And then parking that, obviously now we've got a much wider field of vision, and it's a bit bold to say as a marketer, but we're sort of almost suited to anyone who uses a computer to perform work tasks, which is an incredibly huge audience, very hard to segment. But because of these sort of light touch tools that we're now really focused on, as well as the more complex end, but these light touch tools really do just open it out to pretty much anybody who needs to organize tasks for work. As I said, it's scalable, it's flexible, and currently our clients are really enjoying that flexibility. With many of them are still using it in its original intended way. Some have configured it and manipulated it to match certain processes that they have in place in their organization. We've got clients that are using it specifically for performance management, for example, or we even have a few clients using it to track and manage change in their organization. So it's vast.
Very good. Now, with this vast sort of audience in mind, how do you think about a marketer and about the channels? Like, what's the journey that they're going through in order to get to know Verto? What are the sort of client acquisition channels that you're focusing on?
Well, I mean, at the moment, I'm mainly focused on brand awareness to this broad new audience. I do tap into sort of bottom of the funnel to appeal to our traditional project focused customer base as well, case studies and things like that. And it's really important to keep that arm of the organization flex, because it is where it's what got us here today. But yeah, certainly I'm trying to do a lot more around making our name more synonymous with the collaboration productivity arena. We've got quite a robust lead gen strategy in place. We do a lot of email marketing. We do some events throughout the year. We run PPC ads. We are active on social. We write blogs on a regular basis. I've really had to up my content writing of late due to this change in approach. But I am a firm believer that content, once you've written a good piece, that shouldn't just be tossed aside after it's gone out once. Distribution of that content, redistribution, updating that content and then using it again in a different way is really important. I'll write a blog and turn it into a guide, and create I'll create some good copy for LinkedIn, and then rehash it as a few tweets, and you've really got to rinse that good piece of copy until it's totally dry.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with these sort of, you mentioned sort of how content is being reused, how you're thinking about content in the channels in general. What role do you think the website plays? How do you personally think about the page in itself, vertocloud.co.uk?
So I would definitely say it's a great asset, and it really does enable people to get a really good sense of what we're doing. I would say it's constantly under construction, but then I think that should be true of any website, because any website can always be improved. But it's a really good guide. We've got a fantastic video that's on our homepage that showcases exactly what Verto does and talks about Verto in the way that we want to get the message out, which is from we provide tools from the simple to the complex end of things.
Very cool. Now, We talked a bit about the product. We talked about how you're thinking about growth. We talked about the channels. We talked about the website a bit. I would love to talk about you. Talk about you as a marketer a little bit and learn a little bit about your journey. So maybe if you could, give me a quick insight. So there's so much content out there for marketers to learn. Like, where do you personally, like to educate yourself as a marketer? Where do you find high quality information that you feel, is actually helping you in your daily work?
So I studied at the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I actually moved back from Australia in the middle of the credit crunch, and thought, well, if I can't work, then I'm going to study. So I went back to school and went to the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which was the best decision I ever made and has forged my way. From then, I started working in PR. Originally, it was consumer lifestyle PR, and then I moved into the technology sector, which I really found was my space, the place that I should be working.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for a consumer technology brand for about 5 years before moving on to Verto, which is obviously much more B2B.
Mm-hmm.
So I divert back to SIM resources all the time. I still find, even though my textbooks are a few years old now, I still find that there's so much relevancy in models and and my notes and my, the best marketing strategy I ever wrote was for one of my modules at the Sims. So it's just handy to go back to that and pick out the best points of that when I need it. However, with Verto and with the change in audience that we're now talking to, I have found that our tone of voice has changed slightly from quite a corporate sounding tone of voice to a much more relaxed one. And I found that there's a lot of communities on LinkedIn that I now gravitate towards. One pops into my mind, which is the Marketing Meetup. And they are there is a community of marketeers who work across various sectors, but the tone that particular community has with each other is really useful in determining how I should be talking to this wide audience. So I gain from them, but actually, by talking to them directly about what we're doing, I'm finding ways of talking, ways that resonate with them, which I'm therefore able to use in my marketing.
Very cool. I got some rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for those?
Okay, I'm ready.
What is the last book that you read?
I've just finished one, not marketing related at all. It's a David Sedaris book. He's an essayist, a writer, and he is incredibly funny without meaning to be. He's I think, or maybe he does mean to be, but his stories are sometimes made up and sometimes quite obviously made up. Sometimes you're not quite sure, but sometimes they're very true, and they're just of his life, which might be a bit mad in parts, but in some places is terribly normal and just absolutely hilarious. He enables to make the mundane totally hilarious. So I really enjoyed that.
Very cool. Then what's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Well, certainly workspaces. Like I said, we launched it this month. It's so easy to use. It is free to get, and the challenge is just letting everybody know that it's a really useful tool, which sounds simple, but actually is more difficult than you think.
And for the very last question, I'd like to actually jump back. You mentioned, actually, you referred to it, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, right? So imagine now you would be your last day at CMI. You're heading out of CMI into the world of marketing. What's the one advice you would give yourself for that journey?
I think probably the advice I would give to myself is to know and understand quicker that yes, there is loads to do, but if you can do one thing really well, then try and make yourself create opportunities for yourself to do more of that.
Laura, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Verto Cloud today, what's the one thing that people should remember?
They should remember that it is a really good pathway to productivity.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you so much.